There's this company called Rabbit. They've just come out with something called the Rabbit R1 device. And what it is basically is a combination of two things. It is a physical device that almost, by the way, made with teenage engineering. So
teenage engineering, who are great industrial designers.
Incredible industrial designers. So it's a little box that has a screen on it. It has a camera and it has a couple buttons in it. There's an LLM plus an
LAM, I think a large action module.
Yes.
Was that it?
So they've built a second piece of software called an LAM, in their words, which is a large action model, which for them means that you use the LLM to kind of converse back and forth. And the large action model has learned how to interact with all sorts of apps, websites, all these different things. And essentially what it's doing is acting like an AI agent. So the thing is, we've been talking about this exact sort of action on the show for a while, but this is an actual device that's, about this big square. You'll see a video if you're watching a video on.
It looks like an old Game Boy Advance or something when it's closed. It's like a little cubic thing with a touch screen, a scroll wheel, a push-to-talk button, microphone array, and speakers.
It's very cute. It's very well done. It's very beautifully made.
I want one just to fidget with it, honestly. It's $199, so at that price point, it is like the caviar of fidget spinners.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, and there's no subscription fee. However, there is like a SIM card slot in it, so you will have to pair it with a provider for the data. They're running models on the device itself so that you get very quick answers, but you can say, not just, I want to take a trip to Europe. It could be, I want to take a trip to Europe for 4. We prefer economy. We want to be seated together. We want to go in March on the 2nd, and here's the itinerary that we want, and we need a car, and we want a mid-priced hotel. The demos are, you can give it that much information to chew on, Gav. It will do it and come back and ask you to confirm each step of the way. Listen, I want one to play with it. I want one to touch it. It seems beautifully designed. But every demo that I saw can be done with a smartphone.
Yeah.
And they keep saying, but we got to move beyond the smartphone because the app ecosystem is this, that, the other. For now, but when Siri has this integrated into the OS, I don't need a separate $200 device and a separate cell phone plan and to carry a separate blocky thing with me.
This is the same sort of idea of what Johnny Ive and Sam Altman supposedly are working on, an AI device. And I think the ultimate plan with this is moving beyond the smartphone. Now, we are a long ways away from beyond the smartphone. Apple has its hooks in, Samsung has its hooks into pretty much everybody in the world right now. But there is a world where going forward, it's almost more like a weird communicator device, and you don't have to do anything else. Do you know what I mean? I know people are always they're going to be like, well, what about how do you type text or how do you do this? And like, that's going to be important. And maybe that's why a smartphone will always be this thing. I think the big question here is this large action model. If you're right, that's a piece of software and it could be integrated into any piece of hardware probably. If they have some sort of special speed integration into this device and it can get it done faster and for some reason it can interact faster with some sort of thing, maybe it's worth it. It is a beautiful piece of engineering. I think for nothing else, it's cool to see something that isn't just a pure black slate being a big thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Love companies taking shots, and I don't want my initial response to overshadow the fact that I love that their companies are trying to innovate and do something new. I really do. One thing that I thought was interesting was this experimental teach mode that they have, Gavin. I don't know if you saw that, but you still use a desktop companion with a lot of this portable device. You connect it to all your services. You choose which services you prefer, like Spotify for music or Uber versus Lyft for ride sharing. But it had a teach mode where you could go in. They demonstrated loading up Discord and using Midjourney to generate an image while it was recording the screen, basically, of the end user. And then when they're done, they hit process, and now the Rabbit OS, if you will, tries to interpret what the user did and how it can do that back, so that you could then go on your portable Rabbit One device and say, hey, generate an image of a rabbit that looks like pixel art. And it goes, okay, you taught me how to do that on the desktop. Let me see if I can replicate that. Who knows how reflective the mirrors are or how thick the smoke is? We don't know. Again, beautiful device, interesting price point, and could kind of peek at what the future is, could be hinting at that for these devices. But I just haven't seen yet what would justify me wanting to carry around a separate device. I still feel like I would absolutely need my smartphone with me with that device. And by that time, I'm just loading up the GPT app and I'm asking it questions. And booking an Uber isn't that difficult. And in fact, I might want to see all the options anyways when booking in my area to see what the price differences are and the availability of things are. So maybe that's my old school thinking getting in the way and I'm about to be disrupted, but that's how I feel about it right now.
You're one of those people that had to have a keyboard. You just had to have a keyboard. It was the thing that was everything. Without a keyboard, it was never going to work. And look at you, man. Now
I had blog posts and was on air screaming, iPhone, I'd wait. And then I got my hands on one. I've talked about this before. And the moment I touched one, I was like, okay, I was wrong. I'm wrong. This thing is magical. Yes, it's missing all these features, but I'm sure they'll come in time. Everybody's going to want this. So maybe I'll have that conversion on contact thing with the Rabbit. I appreciate you spending the show's funds to get me one, Gavin. Thank you so much for that.
Rabbit.tech is their website if you want to check it out. I just think this is the precursor to a lot of things like this that we are going to be seeing. And it's cool to see them use CES to kind of open the door for it.